Okay, tell me when to hit the gavel. I call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. For the audience here today, the City of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow for the participation both in person and virtually. In consideration of others and the business being conducted tonight, please silence your phones, which is a good reminder for me too, and also any electronic devices, and please do not speak until you're recognized. This is a public meeting for the City of Glendora. We appreciate and respect and encourage your participation here tonight. Madam Clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Thank you. Yes, at this time, I would like to conduct an oral roll call. I would also like to announce that this is the first meeting for our recently appointed Brian Faber, Planning Commissioner. Would like to welcome him. Commissioner Becerra.
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Faber,
Present.
Vice Chair Norwood,
Here.
and Chair Koss.
Present.
All are present. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Norwood would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone wish to reorder any of the items on the agenda? Okay. At this time, I would like to open public comment period. I now invite members of the public to address the Planning Commission. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once, both on and off agenda items. All questions should be directed through the presiding officer. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. If you're in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording administrator before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, the speaker should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If you're participating via Zoom, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of public comment. Once recognized, you'll receive a request to unmute, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. Do we have any public comment cards this evening?
Thank you. There have been no public comment cards submitted. We have no Zoom participants that have requested to give public comment and no public comment emails that have been submitted.
Okay, then at this time, I will close public comment period. And at this time, I will invite each commissioner to provide a statement or report. Commissioner Becerra?
I have nothing to report.
Okay, Commissioner Davis?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Faber?
I have nothing to report.
Vice Chair Norwood?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, and I also have nothing to report this evening. Now I'd like to invite Community Development Director Jeff Kugel and Assistant City Attorney Lona Lehman to provide statements.
No detailed statement tonight, otherwise than to welcome Brian Faber to the Planning Commission. I'm glad to have you aboard at your first meeting tonight. Thanks for your willingness to serve the city in this way.
And for myself, same, welcome aboard. Great to meet you and look forward to working with you in the future.
Okay, thank you. Are there any special items tonight? I don't believe there are. Okay. Okay, so for public hearing tonight, we have the general plan housing element 2021 to 2029 for compliance with the 6th cycle regional housing needs assessment, strategic plan item ISED. I now declare the public hearing open. And I invite Community Development Director Jeff Kugel to present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Koss and other members of the commission. This, as you know, is the culmination of a couple of years of work to develop a housing element that complies with state law and the 6th cycle regional housing needs assessment. And so I'm going to provide a recap of the major steps along the way and what we're requesting of the commission tonight, which is a recommendation to the city council to adopt the housing element for the 6th cycle. Next slide. Oh, I'll do it. I'm in control here. So the housing element is a requirement of each city in the state of California. Every city in California is required to have a general plan. The general plan consists of 7 mandatory elements or chapters, and the housing element or chapter is one of the required elements of the city's general plan. Each city in California is required to demonstrate in its housing element that it can accommodate its total RHNA number, or as I mentioned, that's an acronym for the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, and its allocations by income level. Housing elements are updated in cycles. And right now we are in the 6th cycle of the housing element implementation of that law. And that the 6th cycle covers the period from 2021 until 2029. And so when we get to around 2027 or 28, we'll be starting the process once again to do the 7th cycle housing element. As I mentioned, the 6th cycle housing element consists of allocations of housing units that the city has to plan for. And this was a particularly difficult planning period, because you'll notice up in the table, the 5th cycle, we had a total RHNA allocation of 686 units. For the 6th cycle, we have an allocation of over 2,000 units, and all cities within our region of the state saw similar types of increase in allocations. The state had increased the allocation to the SCAG region, or our region, which Glendora is part of, by quite a bit. So this was the most challenging housing element cycle, at least in my career, and probably in the entire period of housing elements going back, the RHNA cycles going back to the 80s. I think probably in the early 2000s, Glendora's number was something in the 300s of units, and then it jumped progressively 500, now it's 700, now it's we're getting almost 2,500 units that the city has to plan for. So this project kicked off back in November of 2020 with the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission had workshops on the housing element update, primarily dealing with the sites inventory. We had that large number of units that we had to plan for, and we had to identify sites within the city where that might be feasible and where we had to zone appropriately to allow that number of units to be built at the densities that are required in order to meet the income goals as well. And so we had meetings in the summer of 2021, April, May, and then city council workshops on the same subject in June and August. And the city council ultimately decided on a strategy to deal with the housing, regional housing needs allocation. We submitted a draft housing element to the state for their first 60-day review. And as I mentioned, this among the parts of the city's general plan that we adopt to be in compliant with state law, the housing element is the only element or chapter of the general plan that is required to be approved by the state. And so we sent our first letter again in November of 21. We got comments back from the State Department of Housing and Community Development. We attempted to address those comments and resubmitted again around December of last year. And we got a second letter in February of 2022. So we realized we were getting similar comments, that we had to put together a different kind of strategy to address the comments. And there was a joint meeting of the Planning Commission and City Council, where we took a number of steps with measures to be incorporated into the housing element. To address the state's comments on constraints to housing sites, development of housing sites. Most of our sites, or all of our sites, consist of land with improvements already on it. All of our sites are what they call infill. We have no green space, no open developable land left in the city to speak of, or at least that can accommodate more than 1, maybe 2 units in some isolated areas. So we have to show within our housing element that the fact that all of these sites have other buildings on them, whether residential or commercial uses, that they're not necessarily a barrier to the development of housing, that the market in theory would provide the housing that we're planning for if the market provides that, and that the improvements won't be a barrier to that or not an overwhelming barrier to it or one that can't be overcome. We had to take measures to amend some code inconsistencies with state law. The state pointed out some areas where our housing element and some of our codes were not consistent with state law and housing policy. And so we're going to be doing that. We had to do some rezoning to increase density along Route 66 in our Arrow Highway corridors in order to meet the regional housing needs assessment. And the council decided that the highest density that we will go to and we'll be bringing back these zoning increases at a later date. This is not what we're approving tonight, just that we're committing to do this. We will increase the density in some areas to 30 dwelling units to the acre and a 45 feet tall. And this is going to be really exclusively along those two corridors where that could occur. And then we will implement 31 action items and other measures that were approved by the city council at that special meeting in April. And we'll be bringing those items later on as well. Correct. Yeah.
That was the joint meeting that we attended.
Correct. Yes, those 31, there were 31 items approved by the council at that joint meeting in April. So we will, things that we're going to be following up on, and we've laid out a work schedule for ourselves, really that's going to cover the next 2 years on advanced planning projects that we need to complete. And the first things we're going to be doing and working on right now are rezoning to meet the RENA or the sites inventory requirements. We're going to be doing a number of things to remove regulatory barriers, things that inhibit the development of housing in the city, and to streamline processes and to revise codes to be consistent with state law. And we'll also do some things to pursue affordable housing development in the city as well, adopting programs in that vein. Okay, the projects that are currently underway, things that we've already started, even though we haven't yet adopted the housing element, is we're in the process of getting proposals to update the city's safety elements. And the safety element has to do with natural hazards in the city. If there were, it's planning for fire hazards and other hazards in the city and identifying where those hazards exist. And so we have to update it. We also have to analyze the city to see if there are any vulnerable communities, and if necessary, adopt an environmental justice elements. And so we'll be working on that as well. That's also a new state law requirement for general plans to contain an analysis of issues of environmental justice. We have an RFP out for a consultant to assist us with adopting objective design guidelines. This is something that the state is really pushing. A lot of planning departments function, and a lot of guidelines are, include statements like you should be doing this, or we encourage you to use this type or that type of architecture. And the state wants all cities to move away from that type of regulatory guidelines and have objective guidelines, things that can be measurable and not require any sort of judgment on the part of planners, executing, or planning commissions for that matter, in their exercise of the code and design guidelines. We're also going to be we have in that 31 list of action items that the council adopted, we're working on dividing up the code amendments into bite-sized chunks, and ones that we can handle all at one time. And some are larger and will require more work than others. And we'll bring that first group of action items as probably a single ordinance in the next, and probably hopefully the first 6 to 8 months of next year. So that really concludes my report and summary on the housing element. This is what we're asking at this point is for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation to the City Council to adopt the housing element and to direct me to submit it to the state for certification. We've had some recent conversations with the state on these recent revisions that we've made to the housing element, and we feel that we're in a position to get certification from the state so we can move on and move forward with the work we have to do. So that concludes my report, and this is a public hearing, so I would invite the public to make any comments on the item.
Okay, so at this time, we'd like to invite members of the public to address the commission to provide public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on this public hearing item. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state their name, and all questions should be directed through the presiding officer. Are there any public comments?
Thank you. We received no email request for public comment, no Zoom participants or cards to give public testimony at this time.
Okay. So at this time, then we will ask for discussion from the commissioners. Commissioner Basar,
I have no comments at this time.
Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. So the design guidelines that are supposed to be objective. Let's say a project comes before us and for whatever reason, we don't think it fits the neighborhood, the locale, and we turn it back around for that very reason. Is that subjective at that point?
Yeah, that's a subjective opinion on a project versus I think and really, I think it's probably good practice. Well, the state wants cities to adopt guidelines to where you either meet them or you don't. You know, it's measurable. It doesn't require a lot of deliberation or opinion making upon either staff or the commission.
Okay, basically removing us and that subjectivity out of the equation.
Right. So you're supposed to analyze the project against the code, and your determination would be whether it meets the code or it doesn't meet the code.
How many sites do you still think need to be rezoned?
So in total, I think there are a little over 60 sites in the sites inventory, and I'm gonna ballpark maybe 20% of those need to be 20 to 25% of those need to be rezoned. What we're doing is we're rezoning areas. Because it's been a while since we talked about this, we're going to rezone what's called the Barranca Gateway subdistrict of the Route 66 specific plan. So that covers the area basically from Grand Avenue on Route 66 going west toward Barranca. And that's right now it's at 20 units to the acre and 2 stories, and it'll be bumped up to 30 units to the acre and 45 feet tall. On Arrow Highway, it's a mix of densities between 20 to 25 units to the acre. And so we're going to bump up all of the areas or most of the areas on Arrow Highway from the current density. Some of it allows 3 stories, but it only caps out at 35 or 40 feet for mixed use. And so it'll be bumped up to 45 feet tall and then 30 units to the acre almost everywhere along Arrow Highway.
What's the general tone or feeling you get from property owners about being rezoned? And it's my understanding that there are some who want to be rezoned that weren't considered to be rezoned.
I don't know about that. I haven't received calls from anybody saying, oh, I want to be rezoned for housing or something.
How do they generally feel about being rezoned? Does that work for them, against them?
We did a fair amount of outreach to property owners, to developers in the area. It's kind of a mix, I think, depending on who the property owner is and, what their goals for their property are.
Yeah. The hillside requirements, is that objective or subjective?
I think there are design guidelines in the hillside that require some interpretation, but for the most part, they're pretty objective. Okay. I think the areas where we have issues with, subjective development standards on design are really more in the specific plans, primarily along Arrow Highway and Route 66. So when we make those changes, it's going to be primarily along Arrow Highway and Route 66 where it's going to be felt. The hillside is, because the number of units that really the hillside has capacity for in the future is such a small number of units. it's not even a factor, you know, and there are other issues with hillside development, such as it being in a very high fire hazard zone, not having adequate fire flow. So there's actually dangers of even just building in the
Does the
hillside.
state understand that?
Yes, they do. And they discourage development of areas in very high fire hazard zones. So it's not something that the city is going to be encouraging either down the road.
And you never did meet face to face with the state regulators?
If you call Zoom face to face, then yes, we met via
I
Zoom.
know at our joint meeting, it was suggested that you go up there, but you were able to accomplish this without having to go
We were
spend taxpayer money to go up there and
Yeah.
meet face to face. Okay.
bureaucrat to bureaucrat.
Bureaucrat to bureaucrat. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Faber.
I just, you know, being new, I just want to say, I appreciate all the work you guys have done. It seems like you've been working on this for a long time, but I don't have any comments or anything to make. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Norwood.
The rezoning on Arrow Highway, I think it's just between Grand and Branca,
That's correct.
so it's nothing east of Grand.
On Route 66, yes.
On Route 66, okay. And after the joint meeting between with.
Or actually, I'll take that back. There's the corner of Glendora and Route 66. There will be some rezoning there. On this, if you remember, we're going to add some areas back to the south side will be rezoned to allow residential.
Okay, so this is different than kind of what was decided at the joint meeting when council, they didn't want to increase the size or
No.
rezone.
No, the rezoning goes back, again, I know this is a long time ago, it goes back to the meetings that both the commission and the council had over the summer of 2021. If you remember we looked at three options, A,
Right.
B, and C. So that included recommendations for the rezoning, and the council ultimately chose, I think it was option C was of the three options, and that's the one that's being implemented in the housing element.
Okay. And just on the last question I had, and it's just the safety, is that the hazard mitigation plan?
It's
The-
related to the hazard mitigation. Actually, the safety element is part of the general plan. The local hazard mitigation plan, that's the one that's associated with getting your FEMA reimbursements and so forth. We're doing those at the same time, but they're two different plans. But they are related.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks.
I just had a couple of questions. I know we have to have objective design standards, but does that leave any room for, that traditional, like Commissioner Davis said, fitting into the community? Obviously, Glendora is unique and every city has its charm and its uniqueness. So I guess I'm asking, in those objective design standards, is there any room for that to continue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the commission and the public are going to have to be very involved in that process. I mean, we're going to have a lot of outreach with the commission to try to develop some standards. I mean, we have some ideas at a staff level, but we need some consultant help to help us facilitate that discussion with both the commission and probably even outreach to the community as well to get feedback, to see what's important. If you were going to, so among the things that you might consider about how a building looks, what's the most important, what's the least important, what type of, do you want to give developers options? Do you want to give the commission options in terms of what you require on a project? We've seen some examples of design guidelines where, let's say you're doing a commercial project and the development standards are written in such a way where you may have options you have to choose 3 of these 7 items, architectural items, and you have to choose 3. And then as long as you do that, you meet the requirements, but maybe the commission wants you to choose a different one. I don't know. So the answer is, yeah, we're going to try to, give ourselves as much flexibility as we can, but also the idea is still to have something that we can and that the development community can rely on. I mean, the hardest thing for both the development community and staff to do is like, well, what does the city want, and have us go, I don't know, because our requirements are too vague. It requires us to and tell you what we think, and what we think may or may not be what the commission thinks.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think that's an important balance. Yes, we want to be very objective, but we also want to retain the charm that is Glendora. And so I think like you said, that'll be an important step for that outreach. The other question I had was regarding the lower income housing or the I call it more affordable housing because it's hard to make any housing affordable lately, but what specific things are we going to be doing to try to encourage more?
We, there's a couple of programs that the council did adopt back in April, such as, providing reduced parking standards, streamlining processes for affordable housing. Those are some of the regulatory changes that we're going to make. But also I think it means that, we may be looking, this is separate from planning, but part of what we do is affordable housing, looking at site acquisition, negotiating a development agreement with a builder to do an affordable housing project somewhere in the city. We also have projects coming up where, because of new state laws, where you have projects that eliminate existing units, you have to replace them with the same income level as those who are living in the house. And if you can't figure out what their income levels are, the state law assumes that they're low income. So we have a couple of projects coming up where you're going to see us replacing, units as part of the project, and they're going to be low income, some of them.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
On the objective design guidelines, is that just for arena sites or is that like across the
It'd
board?
be across the board.
Across the board. Okay.
Commissioner Davis, you had another question?
What's the timeline on this? What's our drop dead date?
Or to adopt the housing element? Well, we've already passed the deadline, like a lot of cities. So as soon as the faster we adopt it, the faster we can get a certified housing element. So
Okay. Is there a stick if we don't meet it?
I think the sticks are things like if you don't have a certified housing element, you can risk losing control of regulating development at all in your community. And there have been some extreme examples. I don't know if you've heard maybe the city of Santa Monica, where you have developers, and I can't remember what they're calling it right now, where because they don't even have anything near a certified housing element, they're coming in, and that there's state law that gives them more leeway to just get projects approved without any city input at all. I mean, that's the stick, is the state's using the law to say, hey, cities, if you won't adopt these, the housing element and go along with us, we're going to ultimately go after your authority to regulate land use.
You can do it or we can do it.
Yeah.
And
withholding money associated with various things too.
last question. You mentioned parking, and that's always a hot button. As these new regulations begin to push more cars out onto the street, that doesn't jive with overnight parking standards in the city. Do those just go away? Do they get modified? Do they now have to be permitted? Will the permits be charged for?
Those are good questions. I don't know at this point. I mean, you're right, because the state's pushing and has adopted some laws that will limit our ability to have parking requirements in certain areas. And so that's those are all good questions. Don't know how that's going to play out at this point.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead, close public hearing, and I request a motion. Anyone?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Oh.
Yes, that was a motion. Who requested the motion? That was, yes, Commissioner Davis.
I make a motion to adopt city council.
Do you want to?
Do I need to read it?
No, you don't need to read it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
That was a second by Vice Chair Norwood. I will take an oral roll call. Commissioner Becerra,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Faber,
I'd like to recuse myself due to the timing for this and being new on the abstain. Sorry.
abstain. It's fine. Vice Chair Norwood
Yes.
and Chair Koss.
yes.
That passes 4-1. Thank you.
Okay, item 3, consideration of a resolution to recommend approval to the city council for the request of a tentative track map and development plan review for a 3-story multifamily residential project of 33 townhomes on certain property located at 531 to 555 East Arrow Highway, Glendora. Project number PLN 200011, applicant JWDA MS Architects, property owner Deli Group Incorporated. I now declare the public hearing open and invite Associate Planner Natalie Espinoza to present the staff report.
And members of the commission. The proposed project consists of, the proposed project is located on Arrow Highway between Bonnie Cove and Sunflower Avenue and is located within the Arrow Highway specific plan. The site consists of 2 lots and was developed as a shopping center in 1963. The project consists of tentative tract map number 82883 to subdivide the land to create 33 residential condo townhomes, a development plan review to approve the development plans, and the associated CEQA exemption. Here's an aerial, it's a very light aerial of the site with the superimposed property lines and outlines of the buildings on site and the surrounding parcels. And here are a couple pictures from the site itself. The project consists of 7 row house buildings, each with 3 to 8 units in each building, totaling 33 residential condos. There's 1 driveway that provides ingress and egress of the site and also circulates around the site. Each unit consists of a 2-car garage on the ground level, and there are also guest parking spaces along the rear property line. There are 12 units proposed along Arrow Highway facing the street. Here's the landscape site plan. It's a little easier to see the site with it. It shows the various trees, shrubs, and ground cover that will be proposed. The city limit is located along the southern property line of the project. This means that the city does not have jurisdiction over most of Arrow Highway right-of-way. To have good aesthetics and create better street life, the Arrow Highway specific plan created the amenity zone, which is a 15 to 25-foot setback from the front property line along the front of all properties in the Arrow Highway specific plan. That includes landscaping and amenities. This area creates an inviting and interesting streetscape by incorporating pedestrian amenities such as seating areas, planter boxes, and planting strips, all of which the proposed project includes. Here are pictures of the different landscaping and features of the development. Sorry, 1 moment. The proposed architectural style is defined by the applicant as contemporary with a Mediterranean flavor. The elevations are nicely articulated and carefully detailed with exterior elements that include white color stucco with sand finish, Eldorado stone veneer wainscoting, and light brown stucco trim. The wrought iron guardrails are finished with black paint. This is a view from Arrow Highway, what 3 buildings in the front are going to look like. On November 3rd, notices were sent to property owners within a 500-foot radius, and the project was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner. Staff has not received any comments or inquiries regarding the project. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend the approval of the proposed project to the City Council, and the applicant and I are available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to invite the applicant, JWDA MS Architects, to address the commission. You will have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Michael. Last name is Sun, S-U-N. I'm architect from JWDA. My office has been providing architectural service for more than 25 years. We actually started this project about 3 years ago. Within the past year, we have been working closely with city's various departments, such as planning, building, public work, and county as well. We have received approval from county fire department and positive recommendation from all the departments and conditions as well. I have reviewed the conditions with the property owners representative. We accept all the conditions. Yeah. Myself and the property owners representative, we're here tonight. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to invite members of the public to address the commission to provide public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on this public hearing item. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state their name, and all questions should be directed through the presiding officers. Are there any requests to speak?
Thank you, Chair. At this time, we received no requests via Zoom participants or emails to give public testimony at this time or cards.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and invite my fellow commissioners if they have any comments or questions. Commissioner Basara.
Yes, I do have one question. Regarding the front yard setback, can we look at the elevation again? So this is the Arrow Highway setback.
So the setback or the elevation?
I want to see the elevation, but I
Oh.
want to know what the setback is.
So
again.
that's easier 'cause here.
Oh, yeah.
So the the amenity zone is located here in the front. So the amenity zone is actually the area between the front property line, in this case, the southern property line, and the main building.
Does that include a dedication on Arrow?
Yes,
Is there a dedication?
there is.
on
It's
Arrow?
a 2-foot dedication.
Okay, and so are they going to be required to do new sidewalks there?
There's no roadway dedication or sidewalk dedication because it's all within the county and they have the sidewalk. The dedication is just for a 2-foot easement for future sidewalk widening.
So there's not going to be any type of sidewalk reconstruction? Or
There's
have one?
existing, yeah, they do have an existing sidewalk. Yes.
Pretty wide one.
So do you have the dimensions going from the curb? I believe the sidewalk out there is between around 8 feet wide, 8 to 9 feet wide, and then you'll have, so you have this curb, you have the sidewalk, and then you have the property line. And just to remind the commission on this, the city's jurisdictional boundary ends at the property line. So the sidewalk is within unincorporated LA County. So then you're in the city's jurisdiction. And I believe there's 15 feet back, and then you have the wall,
Correct.
and then another. So maybe you can explain that.
Sure.
too. I
So
think that's what you said.
here on the site plan, it's hard to see on the PowerPoint, but on the plans, it shows that there is that the sidewalk is 8 feet. And then there is the 2-foot dedication for the future sidewalk. After that, it's the 15-foot amenity zone. And then that's where the structure starts.
Okay, so how many feet is that total?
That is a total from where? From,
17 feet. Okay.
yes,
And then the front door is right on the ground floor.
correct.
Okay.
Yes. Well, it actually steps up. So it goes from the street and then it goes up. Yes, 4 stairs, and then that's where the
Any
doors.
type of wall that goes in front of that?
No,
No
no
kind
walls
of
are not,
barrier?
I believe walls are not allowed in the Arrow Highway specific plan. Yes,
No.
over.
Actually, the Air Highway Specific Plan discourages walls within the amenity zone. The Air Highway Specific Plan discourages walls within the amenity zone.
Because it's trying to have more of a pedestrian friendly, open. Mhm.
So there won't be like a little 4-foot gate in front of somebody's
No.
house, really?
This is all communal space.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's row housing, so it's just open. They're all one side by side and it's all open.
If
to the
they
street.
build it, well, I'm sure they're gonna build it, but once they build it, will they be able to come back and ask for
No, it's just, it's like Mark said, it's discouraged in the Arrow Highway specific plan.
Plus, it's a condo map, so this is adopted as communal space.
Okay.
Just think about security on Arrow Highway. For residential, they would want some type of barrier, seems like.
All right, Commissioner Davis.
So how objective versus subjective would you consider this project? That may be a tough question, but I'm trying to look forward using what's in front of us today. Did they meet objective standards or subjective standards?
Well, we had to evaluate the code, and so it obviously meets all the code requirements that are defined as you have tos. And then it also has a lot of design items which are encouraged. So it does meet a lot of those as well. In terms of,
Is encouraged objective or subjective?
that'd be subjective.
And that's what we're trying to get away from.
Yes.
So how would you make this project more objective if it comes to us in a year, 2 years from now?
But I think it's not that the project itself is not what we're trying to change. It's
No,
the
and I
development.
and I understand that. I'm just
I
trying to use
guess
this as an example. My
so-
apologies to the applicant for.
So it
using
says
it.
like within the amenity zone, it encourages park benches and artwork and all these kind of fun little community public amenity type things is encouraged. So like in this case, we said, well, we're doing like a raised planter, we're doing some landscape potted plants and things like that. So those are things that we're saying it's meeting those goals as the encouraged things that in the future we would say wouldn't say encourage, it would say you shall add one of these type of things within an amenity zone.
Or this thing or
Yes.
that thing.
Yeah.
You know, a suite of options. Okay.
Actually, if you look on page 7 of the project analysis, it says that the amenity zone, the street trees shall be planted within the amenity zone at the property line. So that's pretty objective, telling them that they have to plant trees within that area. Because they're saying that they
Landscaping and trees. Subjective or objective, I think is going to be a fine line to walk, but.
Well, I'm just giving you an example. In this case, it's saying that they shall have it in, within the amenity line at the amenity zone within the property line. So that's pretty objective, telling you where it has to be or what needs to be in that area.
Okay. So the first story, this is considered 3 stories. However, the first story is primarily garage.
Correct.
Okay. With small office space off to the side or in some cases.
So
or-
there are, yes. So actually there are 14 units that include a bedroom or office on the ground floor.
Are there any bathroom facilities on the
Yes,
ground floor?
There are.
Okay.
They do have bathrooms in the ground floor.
Which technically makes it a true first floor. A bedroom and a
Correct.
bathroom makes it a true first floor. Okay. Are there fire hydrants on site or are they just roadside off of Arrow?
They do have fire hydrants on site. There
Okay.
is one, if you look on the site plan, right in here. That's a fire hydrant. That's a new fire hydrant. And there is, yeah, I think there's one more. So they do include on-site fire hydrants.
You mentioned amenities, on the front, as Commissioner Becerra was alluding to. What's considered amenities?
So in this case, amenities include seating areas, let's see, barbecues, one second, I actually have it in here. So it would include things like a plaza, small courtyard. Landscaping amenities include at-grade planting strips, planter boxes. Placemaking amenities include plazas, paseos, kiosks, public art, exterior seating, and dining tables. And streetscape amenities include sheltered benches, drinking fountains, bike racks or lockers, and refuse receptacles.
Okay, but no white picket fences. Okay,
Because again, they're trying to make they're considered pedestrian amenities.
okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Faber?
Yes, the only question I had talked about or looked at was the height of the units are 35 feet, it looks like in the plans. And it looks like the existing apartments to the north are all 2-story apartments. I was just wondering if there was any look at that unit 16 seems to be the closest one to that. And if there was any concern with that height compared to the apartment. Sounds like there was no comments when you guys sent out public comment.
Correct. We sent out the comments to the property owners within the 500-foot radius, and I didn't receive any calls or questions or comments.
Do you know what the apartment height is?
To the one to the north,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Or does-
You know their height? Yeah. So yeah, the applicant, just for the record, the applicant says that they're approximately 24 feet in height.
It looks like it's about all on the same grade, the apartments to the north and the site itself.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Norwood.
When I look at that PowerPoint, and I guess I'm not looking at the site plans, but the 15-foot amenity is, and the front door is on Arrow, the front door is on Arrow Highway, correct?
Correct.
So that it's public space right up to their front door. I mean, when I look here, it looks like there might be so there is no enclosures right up to the front door.
Correct. Yeah, the specific plan does indicate that the door, that whatever units are facing Arrow Highway, that's where their entrances need to face. And there, again, it does discourage or does not allow walls or enclosures within that area.
And we approved one near the old Hostess building, and we had a similar situation. And we had that same discussion about the front doors. Did we still have that 15-foot amenity and?
The code's still the same. That was actually, the discussion there was they're not complying with it. And so the question there was, is it okay?
But we did allow them, if I recall.
Yeah, because
build
those,
a wall
because they
with
were,
like
because those were
a-
backyards.
Because they were backyards.
Because
Okay.
the units were facing the private street facing north. So those were all,
We're
those were all
allowing the-
back walls.
We were allowing the front doors to face north as
Yes.
opposed to,
Correct.
okay. I mean, if we're going based on what our general plan is and the Arrow Highway specific plan, I'm not in favor of the front doors facing Arrow Highway. I'm not in favor of no retaining walls or something that would protect those residents. I would be a little uncomfortable having my front lawn being used as a public seating and drinking fountains, but if that's what the specific plan says, then
It
that's what
definitely,
is.
it definitely speaks to that. And when we're doing the objective design guidelines in the future here, that might be something we can re-explore.
Okay, thank you.
I actually understand the concept of the communal space. Living in a condo myself, I understand there's that particular front gathering area kind of. I did have a couple questions. My question is regarding parking because, that's my thing. I'm looking, I don't see, I see garages, I see driveways, but I don't see, unless I missed it, any types of visitor parking or anything like that.
They do have guest parking along the rear property line or the northern portion of the property. If you can see where I'm pointing, that's the area where the guest parking is.
Okay. And is there, I'm just anticipating if a few people have, I would assume that some of the parking, if there's parties or whatever, would spill over onto Arrow, correct?
Yes.
Logically. Okay. I'm just had that question. Yeah, and I think, I understand the concern about the wall, but I also, understand, I get why that was included to kind of give that community space. I actually drove to the site the other day and I think the project is really good because those are kind of old buildings and it would be good to see some actual, residences there. So, okay. So any other comments, questions? Commissioner Becerra?
Sorry, I have one more question. The specific plan, does it allow a 4-foot fence or it does not allow a 4-foot fence?
It discourages walls.
It discourages walls.
But I believe it does within,
It says discourages walls, but no, it doesn't mention heights, just discourages walls.
But could they request to locate like a 4-foot gate type of a privacy area if they wanted to? I just am worried that
I think the intent is it's supposed to be an open to the public area. The intent of the site plan is it's supposed to be a publicly viewed area without walls that have visual barriers.
Mm.
But do it, it's the opposite of kind of what you're thinking. So yeah, it's not, it doesn't encourage it.
was that written to encourage commercial
No,
property?
it was
or
written,
for-
it was written with the
or-
idea for just this kind of
or
a project.
residential? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Define discourages as opposed to. I know, okay. Okay, fair enough. But discourages doesn't say prohibits.
I'd have to go back to see the exact wording to see if you, but yes, if you guys really wanted a wall there, we could find a way to make it work. That's not the intent of the civic plan.
No, I understand that. I just want to make sure, is that ironclad prohibits is different than discourages. So I just want to make a distinction between that.
yeah, it would take, I can't remember off the top of my head, so it would take 10 or 15 minutes to probably go and read the code and see what it says.
But it's also something that the applicant has
That-
never opposed that they wanted.
Cause I can't, Mark's,
I wouldn't deny just because they couldn't put a wall up there or something.
I think Mark's memory on that is a little bit different than mine, so.
Yeah.
I think that the code allows for like a 3 or 4 foot wall within the amenity zone, but not a 6 foot wall. And I want to think that that was the issue with the other project,
I believe so.
is that their wall was too high relative to where it was, but. But
That's
we
my
have
head.
to look at that.
Seems-
It wasn't requested as, and I think the way that this project dealt with it, because the specific plan provides flexibility, what they did is they actually created a raised stoop that is a higher elevation. So really the front setback functions as a landscaped area. It's not like it's not an amenity in the sense that people are going to use it to recreate, although people could. But it's a separation between the sidewalk and the buildings, and then you have a raised stoop. So the front door is raised probably about 4 feet off of the grade to create that additional separation. So I think that's the way this project dealt with, I think, some of the concerns about security and separation from the sidewalk.
That's a good point. The project, the product type here has no ground level private space. They're all ground level spaces is communal. You know, your private spaces and your patios.
And they haven't asked for a wall. So, I mean, I think, they're not saying we want a wall, although I do understand the security concern. Okay,
Well, they may have not have asked for a wall, but they've also been discouraged from asking for a wall. And I mean, this is wide open to an area right on a major highway, and it's open to the public, that amenity space. So I would be in favor if the applicant was interested in putting a wall similar to what we did to the project next to the Hostess building.
Wall. And that was a backyard. These are front doors.
Okay, then, but there is a difference of opinion and interpretation of the specific plan that I'm not comfortable feeling like that we're all on the same page when it comes to the wall. Now, if the applicant absolutely says, I don't want the wall, then fine, but I'm not certain that haven't been discouraged from requesting a wall or a short wall.
but wouldn't that require us revisiting that plan to take out that discouragement as it is?
Well, to say the applicant could work with the applicant to see if they would like to have a wall and to see if it's feasible or something like that. I mean, I'm not sure if this is something that really is a project kind of. Needs to be-
Right, that's what I'm wondering. It's not really seeming to be in content. Yes.
I would like to make a statement that they can come back and request a 4-foot wall in the future if that seems to be something that they need or they notice that they need. At this time, it seems like everything's going to be beautiful and everything's going to be perfect. But in the future, should they find that they're facing an issue, they should be able to come back and request some sort of a variance in order to get their 4-foot wall.
And they would have that option, wouldn't they? Just as would anyone.
Right, it would be a condition
I-
so that they
I
wouldn't have to
think
go through
also,
the
I
whole
mean, they can
process.
come, anybody, if
Right,
the
that's what I'm saying.
HOA 5, 10 years down the road decides, hey, we have an issue with security, we want to do something, I'm sure the city would work with them at that point. And who knows what the code would say at that time. It seems like even though the specific plan is only about 5 years old, I mean, some of the things it's, we don't like street facing residential, I think, because that's been an issue on the projects that have, although the specific plan encourages it, turns out in practice, the commission doesn't like it, so.
So, any other any other comments from, I don't have, anyway, any other comments from?
I will just back up what Jeff said. I don't even think it needs to be a specific condition at this stage.
Wouldn't anybody have the ability to come back at any time and say, I would like a wall, or I assume that's,
If the encouraged language is correct and yeah.
okay. Okay. So at this time,
Oh, one more question.
okay,
So would,
And I'll verify this, but my recollection of the specific plan is that it has a maximum setback of 25 feet. The first 15 feet, there can be nothing, no walls or anything, but between 15 and 25, there can be a wall, but it limits the height.
But the building is at 15 feet. That's the point. If
Okay.
it was between 15 and
Right.
25, you could do a wall. The
Oh,
building
but
is
the
at
building's
15.
only 15 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's why.
okay, Commissioner Basara?
if they were to come back to request their fence, would they have to go through a specific plan review?
I'm not sure that under the current code, they could get one now that I understand the.
That's kind of why I would like to make that comment and make sure it's in there.
Can we allow them through a motion to come back without having to open up the specific plan down the road?
Well, because it's sounding to me like in order to do that, we would have to revisit the entire specific plan, which isn't beyond the scope of this particular meeting.
Yeah, you're really just evaluating whether this project meets the specific
Yes.
plan, not questioning
The
development
specific plan
standards of the
itself, right.
specific plan itself.
And we would have to revisit what the specific plan actually says and
Yes.
really get our ducks in a row in terms of that.
So I think for this meeting, we're just talking about, does this project meet the terms of the specific plan? Yes or no? Okay,
That's right.
okay. All right, so any other comments? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing and request a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, and I'll second.
Thank you. That is a motion by Commissioner Becerra, a second by Chair Koss. Thank you. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Becerra. Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Faber,
Yes.
Commissioner, Vice Chair Norwood,
No.
and Chair Koss.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries 4-1.
Okay, item number 4, consideration of a resolution to approve a development plan review for the building improvements and a minor expansion of Walmart on certain property located at 1950 Auto Center Drive, project number PLN 220008, applicant Ryan Alvarez, WD Partners, Jose Castro, property owner Walmart. At this time, I declare the public hearing open, and I invite City Planner Mark Carnahan to present the staff report.
Good evening, Chair, and members of the Commission. Tonight, you're being presented with the development plan review for a building expansion at the Walmart. The project is approximately 14 acres in size and currently is improved with a 1,555 square foot retail center for Walmart, which includes automotive center and a garden center and about 673 parking spaces. The project area for the proposal is an outdoor landscaping area for garden sales, and it's located at the northeast corner of the subject property, which would be the northwest part of the building. Oops. The site has a zoning of regional commercial, which as its name implies, it's for regional commercial needs, such as a big box like Walmart. The site has a site-specific zoning, which is called a planned redevelopment. The site has a number of proposed parking changes, but I'll kind of go through them real quickly. And the garden center that is the main part of the project is highlighted there on the north. This is just an overview of where the proposed changes are going, which is too hard to see. So this is the garden center area, the existing site plan, as well as it shows the parking spaces that are going to be changed to pickup for online pickup orders. This is the proposal. Again, the building addition is basically within the exact same spot as the garden center's north portion. The pickup, all the new designated pickup spaces are all on that auto center frontage area. Again, it's noting some additional ADA improvements too. I'm just going to quickly go through these. There's a lot of parking changes, a lot of ADA improvement changes. Here's one of them detail. Again, this is another one. You guys go through them. We can, it just illustrates all the parking changes. Another ADA improvement here. There's a couple spots on the frontage. On the north, this is the landscaping concept. The north side of the proposed addition will include a new landscaping area to soften its appearance from the blank walls along the streetscape of Auto Center. It was a former sidewalk, but being the fact that those spaces are not going to be pickup online spaces, it's not needed, and staff encourages the landscaping area there to help soften the appearance from the street. They're also committing to improving the existing streetscape frontage, which is the visual on the right. There's a lot of gaps in the landscaping that are dead or dying that they're going to be committed to doing. In addition, the staff pointed out that there's about 22 or 25 trees on site throughout the whole parking area that are missing or died over the years that they're committed to replanting. That was made a condition of the project approval. Let's see. An existing floor plan here just showing how basically it's existing garden area. And basically it's not going to be this basically pickup storage area for all the online orders. This is the existing and proposed front elevations that we kind of see it from the parking lot. The one on the top is the existing, the bottom is the proposed. This illustrates the new color scheme that and signage that Walmart's going to be going towards. It also on the very far left is where the addition is going to be going. In the staff report, we did note one point of concern, which for us was the while we didn't have an issue with the new corporate color schemes that are going to be applied to all the Walmarts throughout the country, we were saddened that they didn't utilize their color schemes to better use the existing buildings' various wall planes. As you can see on the one on the north, on the top, they use different paint schemes to show each wall elevation to kind of help illustrate the different architecture of the building. By painting it all the same color makes it a little bit difficult to read that architecture, and it kind of doesn't do the building's design justice. So we did encourage that they did add additional variations in that. They did not decide to do that. So we did put that in the report saying we really wish they would do that, and maybe the commission also concurs. They did, however, take our lead on the Auto Center Drive proposal. They originally had a very plain, just blank wall. They revised it to now have a new architectural arch elements that match the one in the center there. as well as the light fixtures that will match and and other exterior parts there. And this is the corner elevations. You can kind of see, the kind of the caged walled in area. That's the former garden center. And if you go there now, it's not used as such. It's basically, it's all full of boxes and so online storage. They're already using it for that purpose. And basically the new building that's place, the new walls. Noticing was done on November 3rd. Property owners within 500 feet were notified, as well as it was put in the newspaper. Staff has received one verbal comment that was received today. And Mr. Mark Klonch came to the city hall and he complained about the proposed Walmart's color arrangements and the building's additions design. Basically, he didn't have an issue with the auto center frontage. He had an issue with the building, the main frontage part where the main part of the building on the west side, being that he thought it was too plain and didn't have any design on it. I did explain to him that we did have a condition of approval in there in the conditions to add additional landscaping at that elevation, which he seemed to appreciate. With that, this recommendation by staff is to adopt the CEQA, or the notice of exemption, and the prepared draft resolution for the project. If you have any questions, myself and I think a Walmart representative is here tonight.
Okay, at this time, we invite applicant WD Partners and Walmart to address the commission. You have 10 minutes. Oh, yes, I thought I did that. Sorry.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. My name is Jose Castro. I'm a planning permitting manager with WD Partners. We're the architect for Walmart on this project, and Kristen.
I'm Kristen Dinger, the senior project manager for Walmart Real Estate.
So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on the project. Since pre-pandemic times, the trends of shopping have changed a little bit, especially during the pandemic, and now even continuing after the pandemic. There's just been a huge shift to online shopping, and Walmart is trying to expand on that and supply the customers with what they need. So part of the expansion is, the entire expansion is pretty much for the grocery pickup services. And they are within the existing footprint of the store. So it's within the garden center. And the 673 parking spaces are unchanged. 653 are required. There's 37 designated parking spaces for OGP. The expansion is, like I said, within the existing footprint of the store. Like Mr. Carnahan said, there's new landscaping that's proposed for the north side of the property along the north side of the building. And any other questions that you guys may have, let us know.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would like to invite members of the public to address the commission to provide testimony. You'll have 3 minutes speaking once on this public hearing item. Once recognized, speakers advance to the podium, state their name and all questions directed through the presiding officers. Do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Chair. No request to come in via Zoom, email, or public testimony cards.
Okay. At this time, I will ask for a discussion from commissioners. Commissioner Basara.
And I will just beforehand ask the applicant to confirm, please, for the record, that you have reviewed the conditions of approval and that you accept them.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't have any comments right now.
Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Carnahan mentioned, was it the color scheme you had mentioned for the front of the building?
Yes.
I would ask the applicant how you feel about that. That's not a condition of approval though, is it?
No. It just, we can ask them if they would like to consider it or what your guys' feelings.
Yeah,
on the
that's what
topic
I
are.
wanted to ask. And is that considered a subjective or an objective?
That would be subjective.
That would be, yeah, I asked and answered. Is that, Well, I'd just like to ask you what you feel about that.
So this is our.
Yeah.
So this is the current branding that we are trying to put out through the whole fleet. All of our buildings are different, the elevations are different, the setbacks are all completely different. Looking at this elevation between where we have the dark gray paint that goes down, there are two different levels. So we could look at one of our lighter grays, but that would have to be through our architecture team to review. But we can look at trying to create the dimension on the different shades of our current gray branding.
Is that something you'd be more happy with?
I do think that would help accentuate the architecture.
Okay, is that something that we would have to include in a motion, or is that something we can agree to outside of a motion?
It's cleaner if you do it as a motion.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you. That's really all I had for the applicant.
Go too far. I got a question for you.
Okay,
Oh.
wait. Okay, go ahead.
You want
Do
to
you
do
have more?
applicant questions first, or?
Do you have any more questions first?
Well, I just wanted to note, we as a commission addressed a gas station on the same site, and I just wanted to point out in meetings yesterday that that gas station seemed to have gone away.
The gas station is still in consideration. The concern that we are reviewing right now is we have an opportunity with parking ratio. So we're trying to make sure that we can accommodate both for the gas station and for the supercenter expansion.
Okay, because that would be my concern is traffic flow, parking,
Correct.
all of that stuff on that
Correct.
site.
We are still in the planning process of the gas station on the corner
Mm.
of the property.
Just for the record, the gas station was never a formal application. It was a
Correct.
concept review.
Correct.
And the item for the project consideration is this tonight is this. And the gas station, if it does come, would be in the future sometime.
Okay, Vice Chair Norwood, did you have a question?
Yeah, my only question is moving the pickup on the north. When I go by there, I see a queue of cars lined up along there quite often, waiting to go for oil changes and tire changes and stuff like that. Is that something that's part of your review? The people parking there are waiting in their car, but I mean, you got people coming in and out, employees that will be delivering items.
So
So I'm
we-
just curious if that queue was looked at or discussed or addressed.
It has been, our metrics has been balanced to base off of our ACC traffic that comes around for the auto care center versus what we predict will be the increase in our pickup parking along the side. So having them with the the expanded parking space for pickup right there along the side off of Auto Center. The cars will come in, they'll pull in, they'll park, and they stay out of the ACC flow of traffic. We also have site markings for path of travel for our associates. Hopefully our customers will pay attention driving through the parking lot that there are marked crosswalks, marked areas of travel for our associates that are dispensing.
Okay. And I guess my other concern on the queue is if I'm sitting there waiting 10 minutes and all of a sudden now I'm blocked in because cars have lined up and someone has to, either the person's gotten out of their car and might be in the store, have to rely on an employee, or maybe the person's still there, but that's also been looked at and
The Auto Care
because-
Center,
yeah, because I mean, every time I go there, there's 5 or 6 cars lined up along that north section of the parking lot area.
the only response I have for that is it's going to be on the ACC team to make sure that they're managing their traffic flow as appropriately as possible. They are going to have an influx in that area. So the management's going to have to rely on that team to expedite and try to get people in and out faster because they will be slowing down an operation that is increasing tenfold every day. So I don't have the exact numbers on how they'll be able to accommodate.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Faber, do you have any questions or comments?
Sure, thank you. I just say, I think, I appreciate the applicant working on the north elevation. I mean, driving along Auto Center, that's what a lot of people who aren't going to Walmart are gonna see, so I think making that nice is good. Adding trees is always a very nice thing to sites too. And then, same thing too, I definitely would agree with the commissioners too. Trying to get that west elevation to pop a little bit more, but understanding that you're trying to stay within your corporate color schemes would be, something that I think would be nice just to get it to stand out, but staying within your corporate scheme.
Commissioner Davis?
This is more a question for staff. You mentioned though that something would be tenfold of an operation there.
Mhm.
That light sometimes gets pretty backed up. Is there any plan or how do we address the light there or the timing of the light?
There's nothing to address at this time because this is just the expansion of an existing swap from a retail garden space to a building. That's the proposal tonight.
I think what you're saying is if the additions, the gas station, all that stuff came
If you
in.
do a gas station or another
Right.
addition or any other proposal in the future, that traffic issue would be analyzed at that time.
I also want to echo, I understand you have limitations in the color by your logo, but we're all about making things look really pretty here. And I don't think you're doing your building justice with what you have now. I think it could look a lot better. So I appreciate you, willing to revisit that. I also am all about landscaping. So I'm excited. I noticed that a lot of those trees are dying. So I'm glad that you're willing to replace that and refresh that. Those are my only comments. Anybody else? Yes.
I do have a question probably for staff regarding the parking ratio. So now it's no longer sort of an open space. Are we increasing the requirement for parking because of the
It was a
enclosed
retail
space?
space before. It was a garden retail space.
So we already calculated
Yeah.
that in the
Yeah,
parking.
and the park is not changing. It's going to be, and in fact, they're still lower than what the requirement is.
How much lower?
I think it's like 20 spaces,
20 spaces?
somewhere around there.
Okay, great.
And speaking of parking, did you mention something about adding ADA parking spaces?
Along the front, correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to close public hearing and request a motion.
I'll
There
make a
was
motion.
There was a
Oh.
motion that was going to be made to make some additions or changes. Can you?
Yes,
Yeah,
what
could-
was the motion?
And I believe Mark is going to pull it up. There we go. If,
Okay,
as I'm understanding, we're going with the motion as recommended in the staff report and package. However, with the color scheme in front design that you currently see up on this screen. Is that
But she
correct?
said, yes, that's it. Yes. To work with staff to a more appealing color scheme to fit the approval.
So who's going to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. So that is a motion to add the coordination of color scheme to the west elevation aesthetic. In addition to the staff recommendation. Thank you. That's a motion by Commissioner Davis, correct?
Chair costs.
Chair Koss, apologize.
And then he seconded.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix it here. And then a second by Commissioner Davis.
Correct.
Yes, I will take a roll call. Commissioner Becerra,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Faber,
Yes.
Vice Chair Norwood.
Yes.
Thank you. And Chair Koss.
Yes.
That passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, next item, consideration of a resolution to approve a development plan review, variance, and minor modification associated with construction of a new two-story single-family residence and garage on a certain property located at 685 Gordon Highlands Road, Glendora, California. Project number PLN 22-0028. Applicant Susan Vanderpool, property owner Antoine and Carol Segaya. Did I say that right? I hope. At this time, I'm declaring the public hearing open, and I invite Associate Planner Natalie Espinoza to present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Koss. So tonight before you is an application for the following discretionary permits. A development plan review for the construction of a two-story residence. A variance for grading and construction encroaching into a previously unpermitted grading and areas exceeding 35% slope. And a minor modification to increase the second floor to first floor ratio from 75 to 85%. The subject site is located at 685 Gordon Highlands, which is the terminus of Gordon Highlands Road and southeast of Hillcrest Drive. It's comprised of one legal lot and is approximately 93,000 gross square feet, which is about just over 2 acres in size. The site is currently vacant with a roughly graded access road and a buildable pad. Here's the overall proposed site plan in relation to the street. This is the enlarged site plan that clearly shows the proposed driveway that leads up to the building pad where the house, garage, pool will be located. Although there is an existing graded pad, the applicant is proposing to expand it to accommodate the driveway, residence, and remedial grading required for the existing fill and slope area repair in compliance with the geotechnical engineer's recommendations. The proposed project has been reviewed and it complies with the development standards for construction in the rural hillside residential zone, including the first to second floor ratio where the applicant is proposing a minor modification as a part of this application. As I previously said, the minor modification is to increase the size of the second floor to have a total of 3,336 square feet. This comes out to approximately 85% of the first floor. The proposed residence is a Mediterranean style with French elements, including hipped roof, natural stone facade such as masonry veneer and capstone trim, tall vertical windows, and a neutral color palette such as the proposed cream stucco and stone. Here's the proposed west elevation, which is the entrance. Also has this entrance tower. And here's the south side elevation, the north, and the east elevation. On November 3rd, notices were sent to property owners within a 500-foot radius, and the project was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner. Staff has not received any comments or inquiries regarding the project. And staff recommends for approval of the categorical exception pursuant to CEQA and also recommends the adoption of the approval resolution. The applicant and I are available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I invite the applicant, Susan Vanderpool, to address the commission. You have 10 minutes.
I'm Susan and I'm the architect, and I worked closely with Natalie and staff to put this thing together over the past year on behalf of the owner. And I'm here for any clarifications or questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I invite members of the public to address the commission to provide any public testimony limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on this public hearing item. Once recognized, speakers advance to the podium, state their name, and all questions are directed through the presiding officer. Do we have any requests for public comment?
Thank you, Chair. At this time, we've received no comment cards, no requests via Zoom or emails related to this item.
Okay, then at this time, I'll invite discussion and deliberation from commissioners. Commissioner Basara?
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Commissioner Davis?
When we talked, Mark and Jeff, you said that was an E7 lot up there. I said, is that an RHR? And you said, no, it was an E7.
No, it's definitely RHR. I think you were, because we were talking about the Silent Ranch.
The Grand Estates
Which
project.
with Grand Estates project, which is going to be coming at a future commission meeting.
Okay, that wasn't my recollection, but fair enough. How many lots are still up there? This is part of that Gordon Highlands grading fiasco of a decade or more ago that keeps coming back every few months with a project or a couple times a year. How many lots are still left up there, would you say?
About 15 to 20, maybe. I mean, we seem to process, there were 30-ish, I think, lots that were subject to that remedial grading plan and all those things to address that issue back in 2008. And we process on average 1 to 2 homes a year. Sometimes, some years there've been no homes just because inactivity in the market, and it's a very, specialized type of, unit or home. So we don't get very many applications, so maybe one a year.
And I guess just for more of a clarification for anybody who's listening or new members of the commission. And it's my understanding that the reason you go to 85% versus 75% so that it has less of an impact on grading 35% slope. Is that correct?
Yeah. that's-
More or less?
Yeah, because this only the hillside is eligible for that type of increase. The rest of the city is not. So we're pretty sure that it's because of the topography in the hillside.
Okay.
And to limit grading.
My only other comment here is, and I've mentioned this before, this chart where if you could go back just a few pages to page 6. That one there. As I look down, yeah, I can look for the asterisk right there, but as I look down, it says conforming. I think we talked about that saying non-conforming, but the asterisk means it needs to be modified because it's only modified if we approve it. As it sits here, it's not conforming. It's splitting hairs, but it catches my eye as I look at that and I go, okay, everything's conforming. I'm good.
I understand where that's coming from. But if the minor modification were not approved, then the whole project would not be approved either. So,
I know, and again, it's splitting hairs, but I'd rather that said non-conforming with the asterisk and the down below says with approval, conforming with approval.
okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Faber.
No comments, no questions.
Okay, Vice Chair Norwood.
I have no comments.
Okay, I do agree about the chart. I kind of caught that as well. I don't know, maybe put something like, currently non-conforming or something that just so that when we look at it, it's like, oh, okay. But that's really the only concern that I had. And I assume this is one of those that's affected by that illegal grading that happened, correct?
Correct.
That's what I assumed. Okay. Okay, that's it for me. Any other comments, questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, then I'm going to close public hearing and request a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the project as presented and is listed in the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. That is a motion by Vice Chair Norwood, a second by Commissioner Becerra. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Becerra.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Faber.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Norwood
Yes.
and Chair Koss.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 5-0.
Okay. And the next thing is consent calendar. I see there are no consent calendar items. Any member agenda items? I don't believe there are any. No unfinished business, no new business items. At this time, I invite the commissioners to make closing comments. Commissioner Becerra, closing comments?
Yes, welcome, Brian. It's been a pleasure for our first meeting. And hopefully you'll continue.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Davis.
I second that. Welcome, Brian. And I'll take the opportunity to remind everybody that the holiday walk is this Friday. Hey, we didn't have one last year, did we?
Mhm.
That's right, because I saw you there last year. That's right.
I'll be there.
All right, just it's a wonderful time, folks, for anybody watching. It's a great time, and we always look forward to it, me and my family. So come on out and partake.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Faber.
Thank you for everyone for making it a wonderful first meeting.
Okay,
And I should have tried-
Vice Chair Norwood.
I too want to welcome Brian to the commission and look forward to working with you the next few years. And other than that, I have no other comments.
Okay, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I also want to welcome you and I look forward to working with you in the future. And I will also be at the holiday stroll. So at this point, the meeting is adjourned at 8:29 PM. See, I used the